Have you ever been so fed up with a family member that you knew you had to do something, but a big shouting match just wasn't the answer? That was my life a few months ago. My mom, in a moment of pure stress, demanded my phone and grounded me for something I didn't even do. She'd finally pushed me too far, and I knew I couldn't just let it slide this time. But instead of yelling, I decided to fight fire with silence. She was about to learn that the most effective revenge isn't loud, it's devastatingly quiet. And it all started with her own phone, her lifeline to the world, which was about to become her biggest nightmare. This is the story of how I stopped being my mom as emotional punching bag and finally made her listen. Living in our house felt like holding your breath. On the outside, we looked like the perfect family, tucked away in a quiet Cincinnati suburb where the biggest drama was the neighborhood watch, arguing about lawn care. We had a nice house, a golden retriever named Gus, and a manicured lawn my dad was way too proud of. From the street, we looked like we had it all figured out. But inside, the air was so thick with tension you could cut it with a knife and it all radiated from my mom. My mom wasn't a bad person, she was just drowning. It's the only way I can describe it. She worked a high-pressure marketing job, and she wore the stress of her deadlines home with her like a second skin. Her entire personality ran on a wild mix of caffeine, anxiety, and a deep-seated fear of not being in control of every single thing. Her phone was basically glued to her hand, a nonstop stream of emails and notifications that just seemed to make her more agitated. For a long time, I tried to be the understanding daughter. I was 16, I got it. Adulting seemed hard, so I tried to make her life easier. I basically became the house's silent manager, making sure things ran smoothly so she'd have one less thing to stress about. I did my chores without being asked, helped my little brother Leo with his homework, and learned to make myself small whenever I heard her car pull into the driveway, bracing for whatever mood she was bringing home. But nothing I did ever seemed to matter. Her stress needed a target, and more often than not, that target was me. The snapping became a daily thing, a relentless string of criticisms over the tiniest things. It was a slow, grinding erosion of my spirit. I remember one afternoon, I'd spent an hour cleaning the kitchen until it was spotless. I wiped the counters, mopped the floor, even organized the spice rack. I was proud, hoping it might get a rare smile out of her. She walked in, dropped her purse on the counter, and her eyes scanned the room. I waited for a thank you. Instead, her gaze landed on the single coffee mug I had left to dry next to the sink. My favorite mug. "Lillian," she said, her voice dangerously low. "How many times have I told you? Mugs go in the dishwasher immediately. Do. You think I like coming home to a house that is still a mess?" My throat tightened. "I just washed it, Mom. It's drying." "I don't want to hear excuses," she snapped. "I want it done. Is that so hard to understand? Just do the one thing I ask of you." The injustice of it stung. All that work I did was invisible. The only thing she saw was the one tiny imperfection. I took a deep breath, fighting back tears, and quietly put the mug away. There was no point in arguing. Arguing with my mom when she was like this was like arguing with a hurricane. You just board up the windows and wait for it to pass. And then it got worse. There was the time she had a meltdown because I folded the towels with the seam facing out instead of in. She actually pulled them all out of the closet, threw them on the floor, and made me refold every single one while she stood over me. Another time, she accused me of losing her car keys, sending me on a frantic search, only to find them in the pocket of the jacket she was wearing. She didn't apologize, just grumbled, "Well, you should have checked there first," and walked away. I have these faint sun-drenched memories of a mom who used to laugh easily, who would build forts with me and read me stories until she was hoarse. A mom who wasn't chained to a glowing screen. Where did that person go? Sometimes I'd look at her when she was distracted and see a flicker of that old mom, but then the stress would pull her features taut again. I felt like I was living with a ghost, haunted by the mother I used to have. My dad, a kind but super conflict-avoidant guy, would just retreat to his workshop. "Just let her cool off, lily pad," he'd say, leaving me to face the storm alone. I was her shock absorber, her pressure release valve, and I was about to break. Our home was a pressure cooker, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. The day it all finally blew up was a Saturday. I had a huge history paper due Monday, and my plan was to spend the entire day locked in my room, buried in research. The morning started out surprisingly calm. Dad was at the golf course and Mom was on a long conference call. My 10-year-old brother, Leo, was playing with Legos on the floor. For a couple of hours, it was bliss. The only sounds were the rustle of my pages and the click of Leo's Legos. Around noon, Leo came over. "Lily, I'm hungry," he announced. "Okay, buddy," I said, not looking up. "Grab a yogurt and an apple." He trudged off, and a few minutes later, I heard a gasp, followed by a sickeningly sticky sound. I looked up. Leo stood frozen. A shattered glass bottle of maple syrup was spreading in a golden puddle across the white tile floor. "It slipped," he whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Before I could say anything, my mom appeared in her office doorway. She took one look at the scene, Leo on the verge of tears, the sea of syrup, and me at the table, and her face twisted with rage. "I'll have to call you back," she barked into her phone, snapping it shut. Her eyes zeroed in on me, completely ignoring my brother. "Lillian, what did you do?" she roared. "I didn't do anything," I said. "Leo just dropped the syrup by accident." "Don't you lie to me," she shot back, stepping over the mess to get in my face. "I left you in charge. Your one job was to watch him, and this is what happens. You're sitting there, buried in your books, while he destroys the kitchen." "It was an accident," I pleaded. "I was about to clean it up. I was studying for the history paper you keep reminding me about." "I don't want to hear another word," she declared. "You've lost all your privileges. You're grounded for 2 weeks. No friends, no going out. And give me your phone." The world stopped. Grounded? For 2 weeks? For something I didn't even do? And my phone, my only escape from the tension of this house. It was the most unjust punishment she could think of. Something inside me snapped. Not in a loud, explosive way, but in a quiet, cold way. The need to defend myself just evaporated. The tears dried up. All the years of walking on eggshells, of being her scapegoat, coalesced into a single moment of chilling clarity. It was useless. She didn't want to listen. She just wanted someone to blame. I looked her straight in the eye, my face a blank mask. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. In a voice that was unnervingly calm, I said, "That's fine." My lack of a reaction threw her completely. She was expecting a fight, a meltdown, a slammed door. She was not prepared for quiet, steely acceptance. Her anger faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. Without breaking eye contact, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it out to her. She took it, a look of bewilderment on her face. I turned, walked past my brother, stepped around the puddle of syrup, and went to my room, closing the door softly. I didn't slam it. The click of the latch was louder than any shout. As I sat on my bed, the silence in my room felt different. It wasn't the silence of submission anymore. It was the silence of a gathering storm. She had finally pushed me over the edge, but I wasn't going to fall. I was going to pull her down with me. Sitting on my bed, the sheer unfairness of it all was sickening. Grounded and phoneless because a bottle of syrup slipped through my little brother's fingers. I replayed the scene in my head, her roaring voice, the false accusations, and my own quiet response. That's fine. In that moment, I'd acted on pure instinct. But now, in the quiet of my room, I realized the power in it. My calmness had unsettled her more than any tantrum ever could. She knew how to handle an emotional teenager. She had no idea what to do with a daughter who simply complied. I realized then that all my old strategies were wrong. Trying to be helpful, apologizing for things that weren't my fault, arguing my case, none of it ever worked. It was all just different ways of playing the role she'd assigned me, the problem daughter. By yelling, she was asking me to join a drama she wrote. By calmly accepting, I had refused my role. I'd walked off her stage. And that when the idea began to form. What if I just kept refusing? What if I gave her exactly what she seemed to want? A child who caused no trouble, who didn't argue, but who also offered nothing. No warmth, no connection, no help. What if I became a ghost in my own house? This wouldn't be a typical teenage silent treatment. No, this would be a silent strike. I'd be polite, I'd be compliant, but I'd be vacant. I'd do my chores with robotic efficiency. I'd answer direct questions with short, neutral words. Yes. No. Okay. I would not start a conversation. I would not ask about her day. I would not even make eye contact unless I had to. It was a rebellion she couldn't punish me for. How could she? I'd be doing everything I was told, but I'd be denying her the one thing she took from me for granted, my emotional engagement. She used my emotions as her personal dumping ground, and I was officially closing the landfill. But the silent strike was only part one. That was psychological warfare. I needed something tangible, something petty. My eyes landed on the empty space on my nightstand. My phone, her phone. Her phone was her third hand, but she was hopelessly bad with technology. I was her personal on-call IT support. Not a day went by without a, "Lillian, how do I get the GPS to talk to me?" or, "Lillian, my screen went all weird, fix it." She relied on me completely, and that was her vulnerability. That was my opening. The plan was simple. The next time she inevitably called me for tech support, I'd take her phone, and with a few accidental taps while fixing her issue, I'd go deep into the settings and change the entire system language. Not to Spanish or French. No, I'd pick something with a totally different alphabet, Korean or Arabic, something that would turn her lifeline into an incomprehensible brick of alien symbols. My plausible deniability was perfect. "I don't know what happened, Mom. Maybe you got a virus." It was perfect. The silent strike would create an emotional void. The phone sabotage would create practical chaos. She had taken my phone to isolate me. I would use her phone to isolate her. Poetic justice. I lay back on my pillows, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. The game had changed. She'd taken my phone, but I was about to take her sanity. My mom thought taking my phone was the ultimate punishment. She had no idea I was about to turn her own world upside down with a few simple taps. The silence was just the beginning. If you think that's bad, wait until you hear the chaos that happened when she actually discovered what I'd done. Day 1 of the silent strike began the next morning. I got up, got dressed, and went downstairs. My mom was in the kitchen scrolling furiously on her laptop. The syrupy mess was gone, but the faint sweet smell was a reminder of the new Cold War. She looked up, her eyes wary. She was expecting me to be sullen, to plead for my phone back. "Good morning," she said, her tone cautious. "Morning," I replied, voice flat. I didn't look at her. I poured cereal, ate it standing up, rinsed my bowl, and put it in the dishwasher. I could feel her watching me, waiting. I gave her nothing. "Lillian," she called as I left. I stopped but didn't turn around. "Yes?" "Your room is a mess. I want it cleaned today, top to bottom." It was a test. "Okay," I said, and walked out. I spent the next hour cleaning my room with robotic precision. I was following the rules, giving her zero ammunition. The rest of the day was the same, surreal and quiet. I read a book. My mom bustled around, her movements getting more and more agitated as the silence stretched on. She was used to noise, especially her own yelling. My silence was a vacuum, and it was making her twitchy. Around 3 p.m., the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. "Lillian!" she yelled from her office. "Get in here, now!" I calmly walked in. She was glaring at her phone, face a mask of pure frustration. "I'm trying to send the quarterly report PDF to my boss and it won't attach," she said, thrusting the phone at me. "Fix it." "Okay," I said, taking it. "Showtime." I pretended to diagnose the problem, muttering things like, that's weird." While her eyes were glued to my face, my thumbs were flying through her settings menu. Settings, General Language Region. I scrolled past the familiar languages. My finger hovered, then I tapped on Hangugeo Korean. A confirmation box popped up in Korean. I tapped what I knew meant change. The screen went black, then lit up. It was a work of art. Every menu, every app name, every notification, all in beautiful, and to her, completely incomprehensible Korean characters. For good measure, I went into accessibility and turned on voiceover. A robotic Korean voice started announcing everything. It was perfect chaos. I handed the phone back, my face a mask of neutrality. "I think I fixed the attachment issue." She snatched it back. "Well, it's about time." I walked back to my room. The bomb was planted. I just had to wait. I didn't wait long. Maybe 5 minutes later, a strangled shriek echoed from her office. My door flew open. She stood there, face beet red, holding the phone out like it was covered in spiders. The robotic Korean voice was chattering away. "What did you do to my phone?" she screamed. "What is all this? I can't read anything and it won't stop talking." I feigned surprise. "What do you mean? I just fixed your email." "Don't lie to me. It was fine until you touched it. Fix it," she demanded, shaking the phone. I held up my hands. "I don't know how," I said calmly. "I've never seen that before. Maybe you got a virus. You should probably take it to the store." The look on her face was a priceless mix of fury and total helplessness. Her tool for controlling her world was now a useless, babbling brick, and her personal IT support was claiming ignorance. She was stuck. She sputtered, speechless, then stormed out, slamming my door so hard my posters rattled. A few minutes later, I heard the front door slam. I peeked out my window and saw her getting into her car. presumably to drive to the phone store, a trip she could have avoided with a working GPS. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of control. The silent strike continued. The house was a morgue. My dad came home and immediately sensed the mood. "What's going on with you and your mom?" he asked. "She grounded me," I said simply. He sighed. "Just try to meet her halfway, lily pad." He didn't get it. I'd been meeting her 3/4 of the way my whole life. I was done. My mom's stress levels went through the roof. The phone store told her it would take 48 hours to fix it. Without me as her outlet and her phone as her crutch, she was forced to live in the messy, disorganized, tense environment she created, and she couldn't stand it. By Monday evening, the silence in the house was no longer just a lack of noise. It was an accusation. My dad was hiding in his garage, and Leo was at a friend's. It was just me and my mom. She had her phone back, but the victory was hollow. The quiet remained. I was a ghost, my presence a constant, polite, and infuriating reminder of the chasm between us. I was, on paper, the perfect daughter, and it was driving her insane. The breaking point came that night. I was getting a glass of water when she spoke, her voice so quiet it startled me. "Lillian," she said. I stopped. "Yes?" "Please look at me," she pleaded. I slowly turned. Her face wasn't angry. It was just sad. Her eyes were red. She looked vulnerable. "What is going on?" she whispered. "This silence, I can't take it. It's worse than any fight we've ever had. What do you want from me?" I let the question hang in the air. "I'm just doing what I'm told," I said, my voice empty. "I'm staying quiet, not causing trouble." "This isn't not causing trouble," she said, her voice cracking. "This is cruel. It's like you're not even here." A bitter laugh almost escaped my lips. Now she noticed I wasn't here? I'd been fading for years. It was only when I made my absence a weapon that she saw it. "Let's go for a walk," she said. "Please." Part of me, the angry part, wanted to refuse. But then I really looked at her, and I didn't see the monster from the past few years. I saw a tired, overwhelmed woman about to shatter. The part of me that still loved her won out. "Okay," I said. We walked out into the cool evening air. After a few silent blocks, she finally spoke. "I am so tired, Lillian," she said, staring at the sidewalk. "I feel like I'm failing at everything, at my job, at being a mom." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I come home and the stress is so overwhelming, and I take it out on you. I know I do." She stopped and faced me. There is no excuse. When I saw that mess in the kitchen, I didn't see syrup. I saw one more thing I couldn't control, one more failure, and I lashed out. It was unfair and it was horrible, and I am so sorry. Hearing her finally say it felt like a dam breaking inside me. "You always do it," I said, my voice thick with tears. "Everything is always my fault. The towels, the keys, the syrup. Do you have any idea what that feels like? I try so hard, Mom. I try to be perfect, and it's never enough. You don't even see me. You just see someone to blame." I took a shuddering breath. The silent treatment and your phone, I know it was mean. But I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I was disappearing. I just wanted you to see me. I wanted you to finally listen. She reached out and took my hand. "You were right to be angry," she said softly. "What you did was a cry for help. The silence, it forced me to listen. It forced me to see what I've become. I miss you, Lily. I miss my daughter." In that moment, under a streetlight, the war was over. It wasn't a magical fix. It was a painful, raw, and honest conversation. It was a start. When we walked back into the house, the air felt different. The tension was gone. The silence was now peaceful. Without a word, my mom walked to the counter, picked up my phone, and handed it to me. "I believe this is yours," she said gently. "You are officially ungrounded forever." A small smile touched my lips. "Thanks." Then I looked at her phone. "Do you, need help with your phone?" I asked. I think I might have figured out what went wrong. She let out a small laugh. "Yes, I think that would be a good idea." We sat down at the kitchen table. I showed her step by step how to navigate the Korean menus to get back to English. I explained it instead of just doing it for her. As the familiar words repopulated her screen, it felt like more than a technical fix. It was a truce, an act of us finding our way back to a language we both understood. In the weeks that followed, things changed. It wasn't a fairy tale. My mom still got stressed, but something fundamental had shifted. She was trying. She started leaving her work phone in her office after 6 p.m. She started talking to my dad about her stress instead of letting it explode. The yelling didn't stop completely, but it became rare. And we developed a system. She'd say, "Lillian, I'm feeling a bit like a hurricane right now," and I'd give her space. And I could say, "Mom, that feels like a syrup on the floor moment." And she would stop, take a breath, and actually listen. Our relationship isn't perfect, but it's real now. It's built on communication, not on a foundation of eggshells. My petty revenge, born out of a desperate need to be heard, had ironically opened the door for the most honest conversation we'd ever had. It broke the toxic cycle we were trapped in and forced us to rebuild something better. In its own strange way, my revenge saved us. Sometimes, the only way to make someone understand the weight of a burden is to hand it back to them for a while. My quiet revenge wasn't just about getting even, it was about being seen. It was a signal flare from a daughter who felt like she was disappearing. It forced a conversation that changed our relationship for the better and taught me that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to play the part you've been assigned in someone else's drama. So what would you have done? Have you ever had to resort to a little petty revenge just to get a family member to finally listen? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating the complicated world of family.